the reason why we discussed this, one of the most infamous and famous players in world football, a guy who could actually turn a game around on his own, a guy who was destined for greatness, a guy who was an amazing player with Juventus. I thought he's decent and very good at times with Manchester United. And he's still only 30 years of age, but he's back now, of course, in Italy, and his career is finished. Now, he's already won 1991 caps for France. He won the World Cup with them as well. We're talking about, of course, Paul Pogba. Now, if we're looking at Pogba and his career, you'd say, okay, he was involved in good teams. He won quite a bit. Again, we saw that World Cup team play in Russia, and we know how good they were. The World Cup winning team started from France. So he wasn't out of place with that team, and he always seemed to play better for France than he did for his club teams, well, especially for Manchester United. Again, he's won Serie A 3-4 times. He's won Italia a couple of times as well. He's won the Europa League with United, of course. I think I don't know if they won the FA Cup. I'm not sure. He won the Under 20 World Cup as well over a decade ago. He's won everything, and yet, from being a golden boy a decade ago and on the Serie A best team again, like almost a decade ago, and FIFA Pro, the Footballers Union team of the year, he's now done for 4 years. There doesn't seem to be a way back. Everything he said, that it wasn't his fault, it was accidental, he would prove his innocence and so on. But at 30 years of age and losing, going to be sacked quite soon from Juventus, this is the end of the road for a guy who really should have won an awful lot more and been a lot, better as a player.
Yeah, I mean, you've listed his achievements, and this is the mad side about it. And actually, I do genuinely sympathise with him. This is how his career is now going to be remembered. I mean, in England, people were endlessly frustrated at his. Well, it's hard to say he didn't fulfil his potential because he was in a team that was dysfunctional under slightly bizarre mentality of managers. But even still, he didn't show up in the big games enough. He did have an incredible ability to drag the team through when he was on the ball. But he's achieved so much. Like you mentioned, he should be remembered as one of the greatest midfielders of his generation. Very few central midfielders can do literally everything like he could at his absolute peak. But if we look at what exactly he is facing now, he has, like you mentioned, the 4 years in the ban. He will, of course, appeal it to the Court of Arbitration for Sport. But it's, I believe I'm right in saying the best he can realistically hope for here is to have it reduced to 2 years. That's the minimum that under the WADA guidelines, between 2 and 4 years, what standard punishments are. And I mean, even 2 years, that is effectively career ending, because by then, like you say, he'll be 32. He hasn't really imposed himself on a season for a while, really. Who is going to take him on? We know who he is. We know his profile. We know his wage demands. Virtually nobody will be able to afford him. And the ones who can clearly are not going to want to invest in a 32-year-old whose motivation, mentality, ability, fitness, match sharpness is very questionable at best. And that is all that's going to be spoken about for the next 2 years. And that is what punishment should be. Punishment should be, it should affect your career, just stop to dissuade you from doing it in the first place. But yes, I agree. I think his career, whether it's right or wrong, whether he really is honest or not, is effectively finished.